Alright everybody, welcome back to my Last of Us Part 2 playlist, I guess you could call it. So as you might have seen from my last video, I went ahead and beat the game and had my initial reaction to the ending of it, where I was really confused. I really didn't like it because I had no idea what to do with it because I'm not very creative, but I had a couple days to let it sink in and simmer, and now I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I truly thought of the game and what my interpretation of the ending is and what might be in store for us in the future in this world. So let's get into it. So after having a few days to kind of think about my experiences throughout the game and to see how things unfolded, especially with playing both different perspectives with Abby and Ellie, I think the central theme behind the game is revenge and how it can kind of transform us into somebody that we really aren't. And as long as we're seeking revenge and not willing to just like forgive and kind of like let go, so to speak, how it can just lead to more violence and just be a never-ending cycle of just going. And examples of that are, right within a few hours of the game when Joel is killed. We have only known the story so far through Ellie and Joel's point of view, and the terrible things that Joel has done over the course of the past, I guess it would be past few years, which we don't even really know at first who Abby is, why she wanted to kill him, and everything. And then all of a sudden we're just like, screw these people, they're evil, we need to go get them, we need to destroy them. But then we find out once Dina and Ellie start to set out on their own path to look for Abby. Dina is asking Ellie who she thinks Abby and the people are a part of, like what group they're a part of, and she doesn't even know because she said Joel has crossed so many people over the years. So and then, as we're playing through the story, we come to find out that, while Ellie was in the hospital at the end of the first game, we end up finding out that, we knew at the end of the first game that she was going to have to die in order for the cure to be made. And Joel wasn't willing to sacrifice Ellie's life to save, millions of people. But they never really showed us what he did to save Ellie and get her out of that hospital. And it comes to find out that one of the doctor that was going to be doing whatever he was gonna do, Joel ended up killing him, and that ended up being Abby's father. So once I found out that, I was able to understand from Abby's point of view why she wanted to seek out and kill Joel. Joel ended up killing Abby's dad. Abby sought out revenge, went and killed Joel, which in turn sparked Ellie to start coming after her. And because of her seeking out revenge, it ended up making Ellie seek revenge on her, and she ended up killing all of her friends and damn near almost killed her. So it almost seemed like toward the end, and we're going to get to it right here in a second, toward the end, when Ellie rescues Abby from the Rattlers, it almost seems like Abby's just done with it. But then as they're kind of going to separate ways, Ellie has a change of thought. So let's just look back at some of the gameplay video to kind of refresh our memory. So here where I'm about to play, this is where they're Abby and Ellie are separating into separate boats here. And Ellie seems to be like, I don't know, it almost seems like she's like battling the demons inside her head, like, should she let her go, should she not? And then right here, she ends up having like a flashback to Joel being killed. And it ends up, sparking in her brain like, oh man, I need to finish this. This is why I came all this way, to seek this revenge and to finish this. So she goes over to Abby, and here Abby's clearly done with it because she's like, I'm not doing this. And I think the reason why Abby is like, I'm not doing this is because she was really on the brink of death and she just wants to get away from this place. But it almost seems like she's like, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore and stuff. So and then right here where Ellie's drowning Abby, she gets a flashback to a scene with Joel where he's talking about, I hope you can forgive me, and she's like, I don't know if I can do that, but I'm gonna try. And it ends up, she ends up just having like a sense of like mercy, like, okay, maybe this isn't worth it anymore, and just ends up telling Abby to just go and leave. But what really confused me about the ending was we see Abby and Lev take off in the boat, which is going to happen here in a second, and they just take off and disappear, and they don't mention anything else about them anymore. And it just really confused me, and because I'm not very creative, I was like, no, you need to tell me what happened to them. And now we flash forward back to when Ellie gets back to the farmhouse that her and Dina were living in, and she's hoping to find, I honestly believe she's hoping to find Dina inside. But yeah, so she ends up going inside, sees that it's basically an empty home. And then as this was going through, I'm like, okay, well, I hope they at least say what happened to Dina, because, what happened with her. But there was, when we first were shown the farmhouse here, there was a letter on the table that I think was Tommy's wife. And she was basically saying that, the three of them could all come back to Jackson whenever they wanted. So instead of being out here alone with JJ, I assume Dina just took JJ and went back to Jackson to live. But then sitting here looking through her music, she ends up starting to play a song. And this is the flashback that I was talking about, that conversation that she had with Joel, where Joel basically said, if he could do everything all over again, he would do the same exact thing. He would never sacrifice Ellie. And she says, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I'm going to try. So with that being said, I think as Ellie is thinking back on this conversation, she's realizing, okay, so if he had a second chance, he would still do the same thing again, and it would still be his undoing, causing Abby to come after him and kill him. So I think at this point she's realizing, wow, if I keep trying to seek vengeance and go after Abby, a never-ending cycle of violence, and it's never going to stop. I think she realizes that she just needs to move on from everything that happened. I think with her putting the guitar down and then them showing her walking away here off in the distance, I think that's them telling us that Ellie is now moving on from this revenge that she's been wanting to take on Abby. Forgot to add, it's probably safe to assume that Ellie went back to Jackson as well. So then we come to the end of the credits, and this is our new main menu screen. And off in the distance, we see it's kind of like a mountainous landscape, and there's a building off to the end. And I had no idea what was going on here. Then I started thinking back to when Abby was in Santa Barbara at that house, and she was on the radio call with the Fireflies. They said that their headquarters was at the island of Catalina, and they told her to go to the island and look for a tall, round building. So to me, that looks like a tall, round building off in the distance, and this could be the boat that Abby and Lev took off from where she had the fight with Ellie, and this is where they landed. And then I did a quick Google search of the Catalina Island, and just to see what kind of, if there was a building like that was kind of like a landmark. And what I ended up finding is this building right here, which is the Catalina Casino. And if you look and compare it, it looks an awful lot like that building off in the distance with the flags going around the top of it and everything. So what this tells me is that Abby and Lev actually made it to Catalina, and now they're going to be back reunited with Fireflies. So with all that review, ultimately, I really enjoyed the game. I thought that the storyline was really confusing to me. I didn't know why we kept going back and forth, but then, like I said, after I got finished with the game and got to think back, I was like, okay, it was really nice to be able to see it from Abby's point of view throughout the events of the game, so you can see that she just wasn't this cold-blooded bad guy. She was actually somebody who was seeking revenge the same way Ellie is seeking revenge on her. So I really enjoyed the game. The storyline was done really well, and the way that they tied up the ending, it almost seems like Ellie's storyline is done in this world, but I could easily see them in the making a third game, and possibly either it basically took her 2 months to go from the farmhouse that she was with Dina to Santa Barbara, and they just kind of skipped right over that. So I could see them maybe doing her travels down to, or maybe even being like a DLC for this game, her travels going down to Santa Barbara there. But they could even do something where, since the revenge is kind of the theme that they're going with here, where the Rattlers kind of like seek out Ellie and they end up coming back to Jackson and being a whole, they could go wild with that. But then another thing that I could see them doing is maybe making a third game and now making Abby and Lev the main characters and making them the focal point of the game, and them traveling to Catalina and doing whatever they're try to build up the Fireflies, or do whatever with there. So I mean, there's so many different routes that Naughty Dog can go with this, and I'll be interested to see what they actually do. This stupid thing. But yeah, so that's my reaction. Ultimately, I like the game. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10 overall. It did have its flaws, but I did like the storytelling. I'm not big with the whole like infected zombie genre with games and TV shows and stuff, but there's something about this world and the way they tell the story that it pulls me right in, and I keep wanting to come back, and I keep wanting more. So just as a reminder, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I stream on Twitch. I'll put the link right here across my chest, and there's also a link down below that you can click on to go right there. Also down below is going to be a link to my Discord server. If you join that, notifications get posted every time I post a video or I go live streaming on Twitch. Likes on videos are always appreciated. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content, there should be a bubble right here where you can click on and subscribe. And then right down over here is going to be my most recent upload. And up over here is going to be something that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. Have a good one.